All right, so let's learn how to properly reconcile our Stripe transactions. At this point, you've already connected your Stripe account to Xero, you've sent out an invoice to a customer, and you have the right payment options in place so that the customer can pay through the Pay Now button and use Stripe as the processor. What I'm showing here is an example invoice, and I'm in the demo company, so all this data is fake, but this is an invoice that was sent to ABC Furniture, and it's for $1,000 monthly bookkeeping service. And I wanted to make this a nice round number for us to be able to follow along easily. Now, if I go in and edit this invoice, you'll see that at this point in time, this $1,000 amount has already been coded to sales. And that's going to be important because when we go over the reconciliation piece, we won't need to code any transactions to sales at that point. So let me head back over to the dashboard and into the checking account. And I'm just going to go all the way down to the bottom because that's where the latest transaction is. And you'll see a transaction that looks just like this. It's called Stripe Transfer, and the amount received is $970. Now, why is there a difference between the invoice amount and this amount? That's because Stripe is also pulling out the Stripe processing fee, which is around 3% or so. And this is the amount that's then deposited into the checking account once they've kept their portion. Now, what I've seen a lot of bookkeepers or business owners do is take this amount of 970 and then code this to sales. And at this point, we now have duplicated the amount that we've coded to sales. We have $1,000 already coded from the invoice, and now we have an additional 970 also coded to sales. So that's going to overstate your sales amount, which is incorrect. So we want to avoid doing that. Now, I'm going to switch over to the Stripe clearing account. Now, I'll call it a clearing account because transactions will land here in this account, and really you're supposed to reconcile and ideally net this account to Xero at the end of the month, but that doesn't always happen that way because of timing issues. Sometimes the deposits come into Stripe, it's still processing, the fee hasn't processed yet, and they haven't transferred the money or dispersed the money over to the checking account yet. But this is what it's generally going to look like. And I have one transaction here to make it really easy to understand what's happening. So you have that $1,000 payment coming in from ABC Company. That's what this is. This is the Stripe transaction. And then what Xero is doing and why it's matched green or why it's green is because Xero is matching it against the invoice that you've already created in the past. So all we have to do is verify that this is accurate and click OK to reconcile those two line items together. Now, what we have remaining are the fees. And when you set up the Stripe integration, these fees should automatically be coded for you already. If you had a separate fees account, it would be coded there. Otherwise, in this case, we will code it to bank service charges, which is an expense account. And then the remaining 970. So this is the amount from Stripe account is dispersing into your checking account, your client's checking account. So really this is a transfer and it's called a Stripe transfer for a reason. So you can create a transfer rule around this so that whenever Xero sees Stripe transfer in the description or in the payee, it's automatically going to create a transfer for you from this clearing account to your checking account. And in this case, what we're going to do is actually just manually transfer this to the checking account, and we can click OK. So back on the other side, we have one last step, and I'm going to switch back over to the checking account here. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the end, and you'll see that this transaction wasn't matched green before, now is matching green. And the reason for that is because we created the transfer on the Stripe side and we have a general ledger transaction that has been created, and Xero is now matching that transaction to the bank statement line Stripe transfer. So all we have to do is click OK, and that is it. That is how you reconcile your Stripe transactions. And if you're doing this in a live client file, a lot of these should already be matching green for you. So most of the time you just have to simply come in and click OK for all the transactions. On occasion, you may have to create those transactions manually if it's not automatically matching, but it should be pretty simple on a go-forward basis.